We are pumped for today's show. Thank you for being here today because we are diving into, I don't necessarily think it's actually the most important all the time, depending on where your law firm's at, but we are diving into advertising, marketing, and how to make it actually work so that you can make the money in your law firm. The whole reason you started out in your law firm. And this is week 7 of how to build your law firm, but we are breaking up the marketing content into 3 parts. This is part 1 of the marketing conversation. So before we jump into that, let's get a little pulse, Shane. How's everything in your side of the world?
Everything's going good. I've got no complaints anybody cares about, right? And doing well. I just keep going. I mean, it's we're headed into the holiday vortex, as I call it, which
yeah,
that's the only thing stressful, right? Is because it's stressful in the holidays because it's going to sap productivity from your team, from the market, right? And I'm in the PI space, so it usually we get less cases during November, December, but then we get more clients who want to settle their case right now because they want their money for Christmas, right? So probably from about mid-November to January 15th, whenever that first credit card hits, is a super busy time for settlements for us. And usually January is a super busy time for new cases. So, and I'm just trying to keep myself focused during the holiday season. I like to take time off. I like to be lazy during that time period as well. So, making sure I don't coast into the new year on fumes versus ready to go is what I would say.
Oh, 100%. Well, it's where the rest of the world slows down. That's it's one of the reasons I really like the holiday season is because you can get ahead. Because as everybody else slows down and some people go to a complete stop, hell, half people turn around and they go backwards.
Yeah.
Right, to go in the other direction. It's not that hard to beat the competition, which, you know what, this is what's interesting about this time of year and the conversation we're having today on advertising and marketing is the fact that now is the time when people slow down. They're actually more keen to marketing now because their noise in their world kind of goes away a little bit. They step back, they're going on vacation, they're spending more time at home. And so the doom scrolling, right, on social media starts happening. They start noticing the marketing, which is really fitting for having this conversation on marketing. So we've got this broken up into three pillars, we'll call it, and there's going to be 3 episodes because there's just so much to cover. And honestly, we could probably do more than 3.
Oh yeah,
and this
definitely.
is just the tip of the surface. But at least it's going to break it up to a level. And the first conversation today on marketing is really about what is your position in the market, right? The market doesn't buy your practice. They don't buy your law firm. What they do is they buy the way you've positioned yourself in the market, right? Most firms, they don't have a marketing problem. They actually have a messaging problem. So like when I say stuff like that, I know you've been through the gamut, man, of kind of figuring out your branding. And we've talked about branding here on the show and just figuring out what does it mean when you talk about a message? Like when you say messaging to the marketplace.
I think it's super hard for lawyers in general, right? And I'll say every businessman, but I mean, in particular, I feel like lawyers because I am a lawyer, right? So, and we think our whole message is really just our specialty, right? Or our area of practice. Like I'm a car wreck lawyer. I think, a lot of times that's my whole message. I'm a car wreck lawyer. Well, that's a terrible message because there's a gazillion other people who are car wreck lawyers out there, and then I'm competing with the lawyers that we do everything, so I hate this part of it, right? This is the part I don't enjoy because I'm not an overly creative person, right? So and it used to frustrate me back in the day when they're like, figure out your messaging. Figure out what you're going to work on. And then I remember, I'm going to say like 6-7 years ago, we were going to get pretty serious on it. And we reached out because we're like, I'm a data-driven guy, and my CEO is a data-driven guy. And we didn't have what I would consider super creative branding people on the team. And we get a quote, and somebody quotes us $100,000 to figure out our message. And I'm like, holy cow, that seems, what the hell are you going to do for $100,000? Just sit and listen to me? Right? I mean, what,
Right.
What is that? So, this part is super hard for me. This is probably my weakest area is figuring out that messaging, figuring out what sets you apart. And I think sometimes it's really hard for you to figure out your own message.
Yeah.
And because, a lot of it just seems the same to you. But, when as we dug into ours, a lot of us focused on treatment, right? We focus a ton of our energy and time on our clients' treatment and getting better, not just settle it quick, so that all the stuff we do on medical care. I mean, if you look at a lot of our videos where we're putting stuff out as, hey, we want to get you better. We want to talk to you about going to the doctor. We want to make sure you're 100% better. We want to do all these medical things, to get you better back where you're at.
Yeah.
And then, we go to my tagline, in pain, call Shane, right? So that's, feeds into that medical care treatment focus. And that's really ours, but that's a super hard, right? It's what sets you apart from everybody else in your specialty. And it always makes me think of, there's a scene in Mad Men, which I haven't watched the whole series. It didn't really fit. I didn't love parts of it, but he's talking to the tobacco people, and the guy says, well, no, we do our tobacco the same as everybody else. And he goes, what is it? And the guy's talking about Lucky Stripes, and he creates this whole story of how Lucky Stripes dries them in the Carolina sun or something, right? And it's picked by people with white gloves and butterflies, and the guy says, well, none of that is that much different from anybody else. He goes, sure it is, because we're going to tell this story. And we're going to tell it, and then it's going to be ours. And the guy sits down and runs with it, but because he figured out the parts of his process that they focus on that, I mean, as bad as it sounds good, right? And sounds what people want. Pulling it out of there.
Yeah. Well, dude, that reminds me of Dove. You know the soap Dove?
Yeah.
Right? So when Dove came out, it's just soap. It's the same kind of soap as everywhere else. I don't know a lot of soap brands, so I can't rattle them off here, but there's all the other brands out there, right? And Dove comes out, and I don't know do you know what Dove's messaging is, Shane? I'm just curious.
I know it's like light or like nothing else, I think, or something.
Yeah, well, it is definitely on the nothing else, because what they did is they called it, they added, there's a moisturizing element to Dove soap, but that same element exists in all the other soap, but everyone else is saying, hey, this is soap that cleans you. Dove comes out and says, hey, this is a moisturizer that happens to clean you.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they basically flipped the entire narrative on its head, and then you think about Dove, and even today, like my wife loves Dove soap, and I've used Dove soap. And call me a weirdo, because I think it's typically
you know more about Dove soap than I do, Trevor.
I know, definitely, right? But it's their it's their messaging. It's like, well, it's moisturizer that happens to clean you, and so I think the key point you're making with the Lucky Strikes, same thing with the Dove soap. It's not the product that changes, right? If you're a PI attorney, it's not what you do that changes, but it's your core message, your core story, right? Lucky goes into the fields and they organically do blah, blah, blah. They do the same thing that everyone else does, but they decide that's the unique characteristic and the messaging. Just like with Dove soap, if now someone else came out and said, hey, we're a moisturizer and we happen to clean, it's not going to land the same because it's not their message. Dove already has that message. That's their unique selling thing. And this, yes, I agree, Shane, this is probably the hardest part of marketing, and it's where most people think, I've started my law firm, now I just need to go spend money, and I basically do like random acts of marketing.
Yep.
Right? It's like, let me throw money here. Let me put a billboard up. Let me run some SEO. Let me run a TikTok ad. Let me do this. And none of the messaging is congruent. And you're basically as effective as a shotgun trying to shoot 300 yards.
Well, I was going to say, you can be successful, but it's missing some multipliers, is what I would say.
Tons of them, right?
And the more you get in this, you can tie it to everything you've got, right? And we're going to talk about shock and awe packages. We're going to talk about drip campaigns. We're going to talk about all this. But if you've got your messaging, you can feed it into everything. You can also feed it into your social media posts. I mean, so you can, a congruent message is the same as, I'll say people spend time to pick out the colors of their website, and then they match everything else, that their business cards, they match everything to these colors, but then they have no message, and their message is all over the place. Like, dude, the messaging matters a whole lot more than the colors.
Way more, right? The colors matter after. It's like guys who spend just tons of time on their logo, making sure the font's exactly how they want it because they want their last name to be so, just whatever it is. I'm like, I get it, and I hear you, and we've talked in previous episodes, I think it was like episode 2 or 3 of this series of building your own law firm. We talked about your logo and your branding. So it matters, but when it comes to that messaging, it matters less.
Right. And I was going to say, and I firmly believe you ought to put a day on the calendar once a year and go back through all your junk, right? Go,
Yeah.
look at your logo, look at your web, look at everything and say, is it who I am now? Because we change, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
My In the beginning, mine was advocate for the injured, right? Well, advocate is what I'd call a $5 word, right? People don't even some people don't even know what that means. So it's like
Yeah.
I got something on my, one of the things I'm pitching over and over that makes no dang sense, but I had something and it evolves and it changes. And that's
Yeah.
a part of your messaging and your core story. Well, how does somebody get their core story, Trevor?
The core story is really it's who you are and the problem you're trying to solve, right? Because you look at that core, that's really what makes up, right? With Dove, for example, they had a core story. Lucky Strike had a core story. You have a core story. It's like help people in this frame, but it's your story. It's how does this make it real for you? And Shane, you and I spent a ton of time working on our own individual stories.
Right.
Right. It was just back and forth. We're just like, dude, okay, well, what's my story? And you may think, well, why does that matter what my story is? And what you don't realize is that's how you start to bridge the gap from we are just a commodity law firm to no, we are an emotional based. We are going to sell off emotion, not logic. And when you look at your marketing message, you want people to be able to connect with it, which if you don't identify what your story is personally, your own personal story, and then be able to translate that to the branding and the core story of the firm. What is the firm's story? And all of you listening, I want you to consider it's not insignificant, and it's not, well, it doesn't matter, and it's not, just, well, I started my law firm one day. No.
Yeah. Go ahead, Trevor. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
You're good.
I was going to say, my advice in the beginning is the same way we prepare a witness, and we want a witness to testify on a direct examination where they tell their story, right? Because we're trying to get the jury to connect with them, and we tell this story. And when you're running through this to figure out how to present that, a lot of times I would start at the beginning and tell me your whole life story, right? And from meaningless things to a kid to whatever, and then tell me about your folks and tell me about your first job and tell me about your work. All these things I would do on direct exam. That's sort of how you're coming up with your client's core story. Yeah. And do the same for you, right? Do the same for the lawyer. Tell your whole story and then tell the whole story of your firm and then have somebody else read over it and try to help you with it. And it's going to take more than once or twice, right? Because when you and I were working on a core story, Trevor, how many times did I talk about that? Just it felt like dozens and dozens and dozens.
Oh yeah, we were going. Yeah, you and I were going back and forth a lot. Right, it's like an audio back, an audio this, and you're trying to this way, and it's like, okay, but after that dozen times, now it's like I'll talk about the elevator pitch, right? That's really what the core story is and what it is. It's now you could do it in 30 seconds, you could do it in 30 minutes, you could do it in 5 minutes. It doesn't matter, but still being able to connect that emotional side of it. And the reason the core story matters is because you have to make sure the core story is relevant to your avatar, who it is that you're marketing to. Right, which really brings up the second side of it.
Yeah, and that avatar, and I'll say lawyers, because that's who we're talking about. We a lot of times will say our avatar is just anybody who fits our need, right? Like anybody in a car wreck, anybody who's getting divorced, anybody who's getting bankruptcy. And one of the best lawyers, and this is stupid and easy, right? But there's some divorce firms that just go out for fathers. All their advertising is for fathers. And it's really businessmen fathers who've got money, who are concerned about getting screwed in a divorce. All their marketing is like that over and over and over. I think it's Cordell and Cordell. And they do a great job at identifying their avatar because that's who they want. They want fathers who've got a bunch of money, who've got kids, and who are getting divorced. That's their, they've spelled it out really well versus
what I would imagine that they also have a personal story.
Yep.
Their core story that makes them an expert or have the authority to be the one who's standing up and advocating for fathers.
Yep.
Right? They've had some experience that way, and that's the broadcast message. And the cool part about that is when you can speak specifically and messaging specifically to a father or a man who's going through this, it will turn off women, meaning they're not going to listen. Right. That's okay. That's not who you're speaking to. But what it will do is the ones you are speaking to, all they do is hear you. And they say things like, oh my gosh, he's been where I'm at. Or it's almost like he's inside my head. That's exactly what I'm going through. Well, that's the same problem I'm facing. Once you start to get your marketing to do that, you have now transcended past I'm a commodity, I'm generic, to I'm specific and you're my guy.
Right. And that makes the sale much easier, right?
Oh, for sure. You only have to be a good salesman if you have bad marketing. If
Trevor, I
you
won't
you
take
don't
that
need
personally, Trevor. All right, so we've got our core story, we've got our avatar. Your authority. What's that? What's that last thing you need to cement the sort of the marketing message there? Your own personal authority.
Yeah, and I think that's what brings in you as having the core story, having the messaging, but then why are you the guy? Why are you the one? And it doesn't have to be backed up by a ton of data. Right? A lot of this is just you understanding you have you have it because you've lived it. The easiest avatar to work with is the one who's you.
Yeah.
Right. This is why I say that this law firm probably had that whoever owned it or started this one obviously had their own experience that made them that expert. Right. So it's the proof in the results. So if you're really good at a specific thing, let's say it's advocating for, maybe you're a divorce attorney and you're advocating for the kids, right? If you want the kids to be, taken care of. That proof in the results is utilized through testimonials. It's utilized through your messaging, but it's also utilized through your own story, right? Or someone that where you can relate their story as really what I call the attractive character in marketing, right? It's who's the one, like the star of the show, basically, that comes out through that messaging. But that authority is really, it's important, but it's all about positioning. Right? Just because you might not have gone through exactly what your clients have gone through doesn't take away your authority to be able to speak on it and be on it and do on it. But it's all incorporated together. Yeah. Right? It's all part of that message, and the authority is a lot of times implied.
Right. There. I don't think you have to just here's my credentials and show them all out. Right? Like when I talk about people and needing medical care and not stopping while they're still hurt, I talk about my knee, right? And I say, when this happened to me, this is what happened. I get really torqued up when people are like, well, my knee's going to get better. Well, it's not going to get better, dude. I struggled with this for 10 years before I had surgery. And then I was like, wow, that was a dumb 10 years to suffer through this, right? But I can relate to just getting tired of going to the, I can relate to anybody who doesn't like to go to the doctors either. I don't like to do any of it. So those are parts of mine. And, I tell people when you're looking at these messages, why did you do the kind of law you do, right? Why did you decide that? What about this area sucked you in? And hopefully it's more than just, I was out of law school and I got a job, right? So figure out a better story than that. Drink some of your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and that's the basis of the framework when you look at positioning, because it's all about positioning through your messaging. Some of the mistakes that we all make as attorneys is having what I would consider a generic tagline, something that's just cliche, right? It's like we're experienced. Okay, well, so is every other attorney. Right. That's not differentiating yourself, right? We're aggressive, we're affordable, we're loyal, we're whatever. Take any adjective you want to throw in there. That's what a lot of attorneys will do, thinking, hey, well, if I tell them I have integrity, well, I would expect every attorney out there to have, that's like but you'd be surprised. Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you're the one doing it right now. Like you are literally just pulling out the thesaurus and you're like, wow, those words look good. I'm going to use that in my tagline. Right. Here's another example.
I think it'd be better to say I love cats and dogs. I'm a dog person. I don't want any cat people. At least it would be better than just I'm loyal and I've got experience, right? I mean,
I'll bet you that would work. Yeah. I'll bet you that would work. If attorney had the balls big enough to come out and sit and big, I'm going full in on this. I don't like cats. I only like dogs. So if you're a cat person, go away.
Go away somewhere else, right? And we laugh, but that's actually identifying an avatar. It's going to breed into your core story, and it's going to resonate to dog people who don't like cats. I mean, it sounds 100%. Silly, but
yeah. And I think one of the fears, I'll hit on this right now, and I know we're probably talking later as well, but one of the fears is that when you do that, when you get specific, when you niche down, and we've talked earlier about niching, but when in your messaging, you're going to feel like you're excluding people. But I think what we have to remember is there's over 350 million people in the United States. 350 million. You don't need all of them to be a client. And in fact, most of them don't like you. They will never like you, and they'll never hire you for anything. And they're maybe never even going to need you. You just need the ones that you resonate with. And you don't want to broadcast this wide net. So if you wanted to niche down as far as, hey, if you like cats, go away. If you like dogs, then you're here to stay.
Yeah.
There's the worst tagline ever.
And we'll, and we'll talk about this. We'll talk about how many clients you actually need later on in another episode, right?
Yeah.
And breaking and how to calculate that. But yeah, I mean, you got to have something, right? And that's an easy one, right? And I think you'd have some cat people who are like, well, dude, I want to hire you for that reason alone, right? You know, you'd have some people who would just laugh about it. As we round up to finish up today, Trevor, any last words for people listening, other than stay tuned for next week because we got more stuff?
Yeah, I think it's just don't discredit. I mean, we've just spent the last 15, 20 minutes hitting on messaging, really. This is what we're talking about, your core story that translates into your messaging. Don't take this as a small thing. A couple things that I want you to do. Take some action on this, like especially in today's conversation. Like go to everything you're currently doing to broadcast your message, whether it's your website, whether it's, the ads you're putting into, if you're still putting them in newspapers or the yellow pages, right? Branding, right? Social media, anything you're putting out organically or paid, and just audit it. Just look at the videos you're putting out. What message do those say, right? And look at it from the filter. Does this make me unmistakably different from my competition? Or am I just vanilla? Am I in this place where I've got generic taglines, i.e. my messaging is generic? And do this self-assessment. And then don't spend another dollar on ads until you fix this, right? If you see these issues and the problems, and it may seem insignificant, but ultimately that's one of the things we help you with, and we'll do a free audit on your marketing message. You just book a call with us. Myself, I will jump on it with you, look at what your messaging is, and I'll help you out with it. Right, we'll dive in and kind of show you some of the things that we can do. For that, head over to legaledgecoaching.com, and you can jump right on there, and you can jump on my calendar, and we'll just dive in, and we'll be able to help you kind of find out where you're at as a firm. Because that is one thing that Shannon and I love doing, and we work with select attorneys to help you figure not only this, but the rest of your firm out and actually be able to learn to grow and develop and build it. But for everybody else, stay tuned. We've got, like I said, this is a 3-part episode. So stay tuned for next week, where we will be talking about how marketing is an art, right? It's an art, and how to actually craft it in such a way that it fits into the system inside of your game. So other than that, we appreciate you guys being listeners of the show. Give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, share this up with another attorney that you know who get value from the content that we are putting out on the regular basis. But other than that, we appreciate you guys being listeners, and have a fantastic rest of your day.